welcome to Football United TV. I'm your host Matt King. I'm here with Joe, Tottenham fan, and we want to start off with a quick quote that we heard the other day. Basically, Pochettino taught us to dare, and Mourinho is going to teach us to do. What do you make of that, Tottenham fans? We're going to ask Joe about that quickly on the Pochettino being sacked on Tuesday evening. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think like a lot of... first of all, I just want to say thanks for having me on again, Matt. It's been a while. It's been a little while since the summer.
Pleasure, mate.
Cheers. I just want to say, I guess I feel like a lot of Tottenham fans did at the time. When I first heard about it, it felt like an abrupt ripping of a plaster off. I understand that this was obviously a very considered thing by Levy. I mean, if you actually look at the results that have gone, for the best part of a year, things haven't been very good. I mean, we haven't won an away game in coming up to a year. So in that sense, what's going on behind the scenes, this probably doesn't seem like an abrupt decision, but I do kind of feel like us Spurs fans have been kept somewhat in the dark over this. It felt very sudden to us. And I think my initial reaction was that I was distraught. I think that Pochettino has basically completely changed the perception of Tottenham as a club. He's made us into a consistent top four team, and not just that other team in North London, as we have been for most of my life. So I was obviously really distraught to see him leave, but behind what he's effectively built from scratch. I mean, when he came into the club, none of these players, some of them may have been there, but none of them were performing at the level that they have been performing over the last few years, and he created all of that. So I was really, really sad when I first heard the news. But when you then bring in the likes of a Mourinho and everything, his pedigree that he brings with him, I'll be honest with you, Matt, I've gone back and forward over this about how I feel about this. My first thought when I was told it was going to be Mourinho was, oh God, do we really want that drama coming into our club?
Yeah, as a Man United fan as well, and I'm sure a lot of other Man United fans feel the same, my hand went into my head. I was like, I don't know whether this would be the right move, seeing as what's happened, but tell us why you think it would be.
Well, I just want to kind of, because of the affection I feel for Pochettino, and obviously in Mourinho's press conference today, he even mentioned Pochettino. The first thing he said, I cannot start talking about this new era without mentioning what's preceded me, because Pochettino has done such a great job. Such a great job. So I just want to kind of talk a little bit about Pochettino, just briefly, before we get on to primarily what we're here to talk about, which is the press conference.
Yeah, that's right.
So ultimately, Pochettino took our club and he built a new one, effectively. All this stuff about Tottenham being the attractive footballer and all this stuff, it was becoming a myth. It was something that we talked about that was present in the 60s and then in the 80s when we won European trophies, but it had been gone for a long time. And even if we prided ourselves on an attractive type of football, there were other teams, namely Arsenal, who were just doing that better than us. Once Arsenal got rid of George Graham and brought in Arsene Wenger, they became an attractive team. And we, as much as we had the likes of our Gazers, and you bring in sort of the likes of Ginola, we didn't really have much to show for it in terms of silverware and in terms of success at an elite level. So he kind of changed that. Not only did that, I think a lot of people have to not just credit Pochettino for what he did at Spurs, but also credit him for what he did for England. Because if you actually look at the England squad, there were so many Tottenham players in that squad from Roy Hodgson's era into the Gareth Southgate, Rose, Trippier, Kane obviously is now the captain. And I remember when Pochettino joined the club, he said to someone like Danny Rose, he said, you listen to my philosophy, you will be starting for England and you'll nail that place. And even though his form's dipped a lot recently, he still manages to find himself in the England squad. So I think that, had we won the World Cup in the summer just gone, they would have had as much as obviously you would praise the likes of Guardiola and Klopp, I think that coaching on a domestic level has done so much for the England team. And had we won that tournament, I think they would have had three coaches to thank, and that would have been Guardiola, Klopp and Pochettino for the work that they've done at club level and getting them to perform for their country.
I do completely agree with that, yeah.
So, and I think that with Pochettino as well, the thing that I think I'm most sort of disappointed about was that he never had anything to show for it before he left. I think, yes, he's changed the conversation about Tottenham, But ultimately, I think that for him, as much as he can be proud, and we can all be proud of the work that he's done and how he's taken us from a banter club to, you know, a big club effectively, and a club that competes with, you know, for the highest honours. Although, as we always do, falling short. Champions League final, obviously, a recent example of that. I feel sad for him that he didn't have anything to show for it. And I think that the one that always sticks out so much for me was the year that Leicester won the league. That should have been our title that year. Other teams were underperforming, and don't get me wrong, Leicester's fairy tale was great for the neutral, but I think that it's possibly going to be one of the few chances in modern football now that a team ever would have been able to win a title with a predominantly young British squad of players without huge finances. The likes of Abramovich has been able to give to Chelsea, and, you know, I can't remember the name of the City owners, but, you know,
The Sheiks.
the Sheikh, that'll do.
The Sheiks of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, the
right? Or
Sheiks.
Qatar. Is it Qatar?
I'm not
Or
sure.
is it Saudi Arabia? Oh, is it the Prince of...
No, the land
Prince.
of endless riches,
Anyway,
wherever they
yeah,
come from.
Somewhere in the Middle East.
Yeah, yeah. So I just think that it's a shame, really, that that we didn't get a chance to win with that in that particular year.
Could I ask you a question quickly on the fact that he didn't win anything?
Mhm.
If he had have won the
Yeah.
Champions League
Yeah.
final and this would have happened,
Mhm.
how would you have felt about that?
If he'd won then he'd been
And then
sacked.
they've still been sacked.
It's a really, really good question. I think it's such a hypothetical. I mean, chances are, had we won that final, we may well have pushed on this year like we were supposed to. I mean, I just don't know. I mean, I think...
I still think the better team that played football in that final as well.
Yeah.
Whether he didn't win the result, but
No.
if you said to anybody watch the game who was more dominant, it would have been...
It would have been Spurs
Tottenham.
in
It
that
would
game.
have been, yeah.
I mean, I think everyone would have been devastated if he'd been sacked. I think it would have been a real slap in the face had he won that Champions League, and then we'd had this poor form, but he hadn't been given at least till the end of the season to try and fix it. So yeah, a huge hypothetical, that one. But I mean, I do feel like Pochettino, I think, put a lot of his eggs in the Champions League final basket. I mean, to come out with bizarre comments in the press conference about, if I win this, I'll go home. I mean, I think he said that just after that legendary win over Ajax in the semi-final. He came out and said, if I can win the Champions League with this in my situation, obviously with regards to financial backing and being restricted under Daniel Levy, I will go home. And I think that he kind of wanted that to be his last game. I think he was looking at this at, I can finally have something to show for all the hard work, and then I can take a break. You know, I could go back to Argentina or his
Sort
house
of like
in Barcelona.
Sarri, because he hadn't obviously won anything.
Mhm.
Then he won the Europa League with Chelsea, but
Yeah.
he went straight into, got a job at Juventus.
Got a job at
because
Juventus.
of it, I guess.
Yeah,
Because if he would have lost it, they probably would have gone, I don't know, maybe Emery. They would have gone for, you know what I mean? Like,
quite
so
possibly.
He
Yeah,
went out on a bang, and that was sort of what Pochettino wanted
quite
to do.
possibly. I think that, you know, sometimes managers are astute enough to know that it's good to leave on a high.
Yeah.
Most managers, because of how competitive they are, they won't. But at the same time, Sarri, I mean, it's an interesting example. I mean, he did go more or less straight into the Juventus job after that. But I think that there was a lot of...
wait around, did he?
Didn't wait around. But I mean, I think there was...
It was gone like Hazard was gone.
Yeah.
You know, like, they both were like, congratulations.
Yeah. There was so much disharmony, I think, though, in that Chelsea team, that I think that the chance for him to actually win something and then leave, and they finished third in the Premier League last season under Sarri as well. So really, he did a great job. Finished third and won the Europa League. I mean, in terms of what the board expected from Chelsea, you know, when you're up against the likes of City and Liverpool, I mean, I think to finish third behind those two, you know, who are in like a league of their own.
And at one point in the Premier League last season, everyone was like, "Oh my God, Man United are dominating. They're never going to be." Arsenal and Chelsea were the ones that looking like they were going to be the flops.
Yeah.
And then he pulled it back. But then
He pulled it back.
Chelsea right now as well are doing great, but
Yeah.
we won't get onto that too
No,
much.
yeah. I'm looking forward to
Especially
that
after
game
now,
next month.
Chelsea fans are probably like, "Hey,
No, I know.
what the
I have
hell?"
read a few people on like YouTube and stuff, Chelsea fans, saying that they are genuinely afraid of Tottenham again
See?
after our slip because of Mourinho being at the helm. But I mean, I think that I think Poch's legacy is good. I mean, I think that there are huge comparables with a few things actually, which I'm going to get into with regards to Mourinho coming to Spurs and when Poch came to Spurs. The first one that came to my mind really, especially when you say that quote, Pochettino taught us to dare, Mourinho will show us how to do, is you have to look at Chelsea when Mourinho took over back in 2004. They were under Ranieri, who had done a fantastic job setting up that team and getting a winning mentality, but he couldn't quite take them over the line in the same way that Pochettino hasn't been able to with Spurs. I mean, obviously, in the modern era, you look at Chelsea and you say they're one of the big clubs, that they've got a lot of success, leagues, Champions League, domestic cups, but back in 2004, their history wasn't so glittery as what it is
they haven't
now.
won the league since the 50s or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Precisely. So I think that Ranieri kind of created a good blueprint, and then when Mourinho came in, he tweaked it. He added a few new players. He brought obviously his charisma and his triumph with Porto in the Champions League. Obviously a huge thing to take a team like that and win that competition, which obviously ultimately got him the Chelsea job.
remember when they beat Man United, mate, and he ran up the touchline.
Ran up the touchline,
And I
yeah,
was like,
precisely.
who's this dude?
Yeah, exactly. Just
And
sort
then
of screaming at the world. This is me.
his entrance onto my life.
Yeah. So I think that it reminds me a little bit of that, how Pochettino has kind of built this team, and now someone with more pedigree is going to come in and take it over, and hopefully take the talent of the squad and instill that winning mentality, which I guess brings us kind of nicely onto Mourinho.
Do you have quick message for Pochettino?
For Pochettino,
Just as a fan, to say,
well, just to basically say, Poch, I mean, it was so great to have you at the helm, to actually enjoy going to Tottenham games, to actually feel like there was more to 90 minutes than just a day out with a beer and a hot dog, to actually felt like every 3 points could actually lead to something more. And that's something that I think that had been really out of reach with our club. I think that, yes, we've been in the Champions League under Harry Redknapp once, but we kind of felt like we were just having a cameo appearance in that competition, whereas Pochettino made us believe that although doubters would say we'd never win it, we were a team that was in it to win it.
Yeah.
So for that, I say thank you to Pochettino.
that's very nice.
Cheers, mate.
Man.
Cheers, mate.
So we got to get on to now. Obviously, we got to get on to the now and the future.
Yes.
Mourinho, obviously, was given the go ahead yesterday morning after staying all night at the training ground as
Up
well.
to avoiding morning rush hour and staying in.
Apparently, reporters were outside going, we were at every single entrance and exit, and he didn't come in. Just,
Yeah. So
beat me up, Scotty.
Yeah, I think it was that Kave Solikov on Sky Sports that said that he had this inkling that Mourinho was already here, because surely he would be arriving by now.
Yeah.
And he stayed in the 6-star hotel, as he put it.
Six-star.
Well, it was just the lodge at Tottenham, but he basically compared it to like a 6-star hotel, which I don't think is a thing. But
No.
But
That's like sort of saying 11 out of 10, though, isn't it?
yeah. I think that Mourinho has been interesting in how he's kind of approached the first footsteps in the club. I mean, he's talked very much about the infrastructure. He's talked very much about the facilities. He's complimenting the lodge, saying you're not going to find a better hotel than this. Like in terms of luxury, it's right here at the training ground.
Can we go there? Is it open to the public, or is it just sort of a...
They hold open training sessions sometimes, but I don't think we'll ever get in the lodge, no, which is a shame. I know, I'd love to go stay in a 6-star hotel. But, I mean, he does kind of seem like a kid that got all of his Christmas presents that he wanted. I mean, he's wandering around looking at a team with the likes of...
This time last year, he got sacked. Now
Well, absolutely. Now he's going on about, it's the best stadium, the best training ground. But he's also looking at the likes of Kane, Alderweireld, Eric Dyer. These are all players that he wanted to sign when he was at Man United, and now he's just inherited them. There you go.
I hear he loves Dyer as well. Is
yeah,
that correct?
which is interesting. I mean, hopefully Dyer can rediscover his.
Is that because
form.
of his Portugal connections? The fact that Dyer came from the Sporting Lisbon Academy.
I mean, I think he probably loves the Eric Dyer of 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, I think that Dyer's form has massively slipped off. He's had a series of weird kind of illnesses like chicken pox and weird kind of stuff, and he's had his injuries. But I mean, I don't know exactly where the love of Dyer comes from. But I mean, if he can rediscover form under Mourinho, then great. But yeah, I mean, the appointment of Mourinho, as I say, when I first heard, I thought, he's going to bring his drama to the club. I mean, I think that Daniel Levy has very much looked at this like stats wise. I mean, it's very much kind of almost what they call laptop management, where you look and you say, okay, he always wins. everywhere he goes. So let's not worry too much about the style and flair that we've had. Let's just get the guy in that wins something. But to be honest with you, the more I think about it, I think he's on a 2.5-year contract. He's said in his press conference that he's not planning on changing the style of the team in any way. He basically just wants to help reinstall that confidence and make a couple of tweaks here and there. Obviously, we want to shore them up defensively. That goes without question. But I think we have to remember that I think this thing about Mourinho playing an unattractive style of football is not entirely accurate. I think that, yes, he sets his teams up to win. When you're going to be looking at a Mourinho team versus a Man United, a Man City, or a Liverpool, he's probably going to be a little bit more defensive in terms of the formation.
Well, they say his coaching staff, if you ever look at his coaching staff, they're going to include double-decker red bus.
Yeah, double-decker, yeah.
A grand truck lorry from America or something that goes through the south, that's something huge.
I saw a clip.
And a few others.
I saw a clip of Mourinho when they were showing all of these, let's look at his highlights from his career, and he mentioned this thing about, as we say in Portugal, they came to park the bus in front of the goal. Am I right in thinking that Mourinho created the park the bus phrase? Did he invent it, or did he bring it to Britain? Because
I think he kind of did, but there's this really good stat about him in Madrid. I think they scored the most goals in La Liga under him.
Right.
In one of their seasons, and
okay.
They still called him a boring.
Yeah. Well, this is the point I was making.
This might not be completely true,
No.
but I think maybe in a certain time that he did that for Madrid, that he got a good stat for him for the amount of goals that he scored in one season. But yeah.
But this is the thing, I think that it's not entirely accurate. I wouldn't say it's a total myth, but it's not entirely accurate that he plays unattractive football. If you look at his Chelsea team, even the one as late as 2014 in his second spell, we had the likes of Eden Hazard, Willian, Diego Costa. I remember them battering teams 4 or 5-0 each week. It was only when he came up against his rivals for the league that maybe he shored things up a little bit at the back, and he looked more at their weakness, at how to keep them out rather than thinking about how he was going to break them down. But I mean, even then he would still nick a 1 or a 2-0 or a 2-1 and stuff. So, I mean, I think that there are matches this season I look back on, and I think that if we'd had Mourinho in the dugout, we probably would have won those games. I mean, the Everton game recently, for example, we were leading 1-0 until the 100th minute of stoppage time or whatever it was, where Everton equalised. The Arsenal game, we were 2-0 up. Even if Danny Rose had still made that error and we went in at 2-1 at half time, chances are it would have ended 2-1 under Mourinho. He would have looked at the sections of the pitch that we need shoring up, and he would have done something about it. Unlike Pochettino, who, as much as I love the guy, he was very late in his substitutions, and he proved himself to be kind of tactically inept on multiple occasions in games.
How do you think Ndombele is going to work out with Mourinho? I mean, obviously he's the new big signing and hasn't featured as much as
he has.
Fans would like.
He has. I mean, he has been injured, and Ndombele, I think, is positive. It's important to remind everyone of that. He has been injured.
Yeah.
I mean, he got off to a great start, scoring a goal in the opening game of the season. He did score in the last game that we actually won in the league, which was a game I went to, which was against Southampton at home. He scored in that game. I think that he showed little glimpses of it. I mean, I like to think that all the players, including Ndombele, will look at a manager of the likes of Mourinho and think, wow, I am working with one of the all-time greats, and surely this could be nothing but good for me in my development. Mourinho, in terms of communication, I'm pretty sure Mourinho is fluent in French as well, so I think in terms of translating the message...
about 5 languages, isn't he? Italian, French, Portuguese,
Spanish,
English.
Yeah, and he's learning German as well.
Pig Latin and all sorts of
Pig Latin, yeah. Occasional gibberish. But you'll be able to communicate with him. If he's not getting the message across in English, he can do it in French. So I think that for the likes of players like that, I think that he is going to have a positive impact. I think as well, I mean, he said in the press conference, I'm not here to change the style of play. And I think that the best managers are adaptable. I think that, I remember when Harry Redknapp, for example, when he came to the club, I can't remember the exact game. I think it might have actually been the first game where Harry Redknapp was in charge. I think we'd lost or drawn all our games that season until Ramos was eventually relieved of his duties. Redknapp came in, his first game was against Bolton at home, and we won 2-0. And in his press conference afterwards, Redknapp said something along the lines of, I've joined clubs before where I've looked at the team and thought, what am I going to do with this lot? where this is not the case here. We've got good players here. I remember another game where I think we battered, Newcastle like 5-0 at home or something, and Redknapp said, "I just love the way that we play football." And he was almost saying it in this detached sense, as if to say, not the way I get them to play football, just the way they play football. Almost like you let a dog off the lead and you let him just run around and do what he wants.
I want you to go run around. Oh, look how he's running around. Isn't that great? Look, he's running right round there. Look, around the tree. Look.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's going far away, but he's still coming back.
Precisely. And I think that, even someone like,
Not my dogs, so don't.
No.
I don't have any dogs.
Even like someone like your hero, Alex Ferguson. I think Peter Schmeichel said about him that he'd worked with better coaches than Fergie, but he'd never worked with better managers. And I think that maybe Mourinho is looking a little bit at this. Now, he talked as well about being humble in his press conference. He talked about, this isn't about me. This is about the club. This is about the fans. This is about everyone else. This isn't just about me. Whether he means that or not, I don't know. But he's saying all the right things. He was out of work for 11 months, I think it was, since Man United let him go. And in that time, he would have been digesting everything, because he's like Wenger. He's obsessed with football. He would have been listening to everything that everyone said about him, because he's a total narcissist. So he would have been listening to everything everyone said. And a lot of people would have been saying he lost the dressing room. He's not like Guardiola and Klopp. He doesn't put an arm around players like he should. He's not there like their friend like Klopp and Guardiola and Pochettino are. He's probably listened to all this, and whether he really means it or not when he says it's not about me, it doesn't matter, because he's probably looked at that and think, if I am going to be successful again, this is the approach that I need to take. I need to basically,
because you don't want him to take like the credit for everything that the club has done, especially.
Exactly.
And you don't want a manager coming in going, well, I've won this and that and that. Like
precisely. This. And this kind of brings me back to the point I was making when I was talking about Pochettino, about how I wish we'd won the league in 2016 that year, because that was a great opportunity for the team to win and for everyone to talk about the collective, to say that this Tottenham team have won not just because of Pochettino, but because of his backroom staff, because of the innovations of Daniel Levy, about the quality of the academy, bringing the young players up, and it would have been a great team effort if we won the league that year. What Mourinho does is he goes to clubs, and it's not Tottenham winning the league, it's Mourinho winning the league. So self-indulgent,
self-established confidence.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Self-established confidence. But basically, everything you do is confident in what you're doing, and not what everybody as a team are doing.
Precisely, and this is the thing. And when I heard it was going to be Mourinho, if we do end up winning the league in the next couple of years, is it just going to be, that's just what Mourinho does? It's not about you. It's just about getting him as a coach. But I mean, whether as I said, he's saying all the right things. He's talking about the club as a collective. He did that interesting thing as well, where he was asked in the press conference about his allegiances, and obviously he said the quote when he was at Chelsea about, "I could never manage Tottenham." And then when he was questioned about that, he says, "Yeah, but when I'm at any club, I give 110% to that one club. So when I was at Inter, I was Mr. Inter. I was Mr. Real Madrid. I was Mr. Chelsea. I was Mr. Porto." And then he just stopped talking, and he never mentioned Man United. And I have to say, I thought that was very, very telling.
So Mourinho has just got messages recently, and you know who they're from? Mostly from Ed Woodward, and most of the players and people on the board at Man United have sent him the messages saying congratulations, good luck on your next venture. And it's funny how you say he didn't mention Man United yet. They're all over it, I need to give you praise.
Yeah. But the thing is though, there's a lot of stuff that people in the know who actually know Mourinho personally say that when you spend time with him, he's not the kind of grumpy, cynical, sort of aggressive, defensive person that he portrays himself in press conferences. He did that. I was saying before about how he'd been digesting everything over the summer, what people have said about him. He did that documentary in the summer where I think he went back to Setúbal, his hometown in Portugal, and I can't remember the...
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, did you see the really interesting documentary where he just wandered around in this lovely sunshine.
Around the harbour.
That's right, it's beautiful, yeah. And he was talking about, how he's learned and how he thinks he's better now, and, and he's looking forward to his next challenge. And the guy who was interviewing him, I can't remember the guy's name, he works for Sky Sports, but he said, he said to him, he said, you're actually quite a cheerful person, and it's quite nice to see him. Mourinho said, well, yeah, he said, anyone that knows me will tell you that. And I think that this is this thing with him in the media. I think he does put on a big front. He does have a big ego. He doesn't like being challenged. In his early career, he never was challenged because he was always winning consistently. And then at Man United. But the thing with the Man United job, what we have to remember as well, expectations are so much higher. Man United are expected to win the league and the Champions League every year. You know, I would say as a Spurs fan, I would gladly take the honours he won at Man United. I mean, he won what? The League Cup, Europa, and the Community Shield, and I would happily take those things because, you know, he's got a 2.5-year contract, and then it's always short term. You know, ultimately that will be extended if he does well. If he decides that he wins a few trophies and he wants to move on to something else, or he feels like he's won the big trophies, like if he wins us a league or something, he might go, well, my job here is done. I've won them their first league since 1961, and then he goes. But ultimately, the whole point is that we win a few trophies, whether it might be tin pot trophies to some people, like a League Cup.
Something to hold up and
something to hold up.
Look what we did.
Precisely. It instills a winning mentality.
So what do you think the Tottenham players will think of having Jose Mourinho as the new manager?
Well, I think the majority of them will be extremely happy and excited to work with someone with his experience, really. I think that in the same way that I remember Rio Ferdinand talking about Fabio Capello when he joined England, and he just had that wow moment of, wow, we've got Fabio Capello as our manager, I'm going to learn under the tutelage of someone like him. I think that obviously Pochettino was very popular amongst certain players. I think clearly results on the pitch show not popular with everyone, and I think sometimes, as many of the pundits have said, you need a new voice. And I think that Mourinho, some people might say that he's a dinosaur, but I think the problem we had at United was massive expectation levels up against a team like Man City, who were playing football that was out of this planet, and they still are, to be fair.
With all that money as well, Man United got.
I think that he had so much pressure. I think one of the big things as well, when you talk about players and relationships with players, is that there was more player power, I think, at Man United than what there is at Tottenham. There was more winners in that squad than what Tottenham have, I think. I mean, I think them, apart from, you know, a couple of the French players have won the World Cup in the summer, majority of the squad haven't won much, if anything, domestically. So I think that, you know, when AVB joined, got the job at Chelsea, he wasn't well received because I think senior players like Lampard and Terry thought, I don't need someone to tell me how to play football, or I know I'm a winner. When he went to Spurs, I think that he was more popular. I think the players bought into it more. And I think that the same applies this time around with Mourinho. I think that he will be well received by a team of players with egos. Of course, they've got egos, they're footballers, but maybe not as well decorated egos as the likes of a Paul Pogba, for example. So I think that he will be well received and amongst the team. And, you know, I think that it's all important that we don't go on all the time about what Mourinho's done in the past, but it's also important that we don't assume that because he's not a Klopp or a Guardiola that he's a dinosaur. I think that he will be really up for this challenge. We don't know what sort of Mourinho we're going to get. He's already said in the press conference he's not planning on changing the style of football. He just wants to instill the belief. So I think that as a Tottenham fan, whatever I felt about him in the past, I have to just put it to one side and back him because, you know, he won't be the last manager we ever have.
So what do you think the score will be? West Ham versus Spurs at the weekend, 12:30.
I think we got to win. I mean, I think that the players are going to be so sort of up for this game now off the back of all of this drama. They've now got a new coach. You know, they've had a training session. I watched the training session on YouTube, and they all were smiling. They all seemed up for it. They're clearly doing things in training that they maybe haven't done before. And I think that they're just going to be so up for making a statement to their new coach about, you know, their place going forward. And I think we're going to win. I think we have to win.
Do you have a prediction on it? If you could make one.
I don't think it's going to be part of the bus at all. I think it's going to be fast-paced, aggressive football. I think it's going to be Pochettino football, to be honest with you. Players aren't going to change overnight. Why not? I'll say 3-0. 3-0 Spurs. Why not?
I think 3-1.
Okay.
There you go. I think maybe one goal from West Ham, seeing as they're at home.
It is their cup final.
They're having big problems too, as everybody knows.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Joe, thank you very much. And what a heart racing week it's been.
Absolutely.
2 days.
Yeah, it's literally been a couple of days.
It feels like it's been so long. I feel like it's been like a transfer saga squished into like. Do you know what I mean? Like the way everything's been going.
Yeah. I think
in, out, shake it all about.
because of the results that we've had, and it's been really poor recently, it probably seems like it's been going on longer, and Pochettino's head has been on the guillotine ready longer. But in terms of the way it's happened with him leaving and Mourinho joining, it has been an absolute roller coaster of a couple of days, and just going to have to ride it like we do in the Premier League.
Well, you'll be on in the next 2 or 3 or so weeks in December for our special, and we'll talk then about how you feel about how it's been going so far.
Yes, absolutely.
Can't say anything right now because we haven't even got there yet.
no. But it'd be good to get all the lads together to have a little chat about
definitely
the season.
Well, thank you very much.
No worries.
And everybody, please do subscribe, share, like, do what you can for the channel and for these guys as well, Bills, Joe, Dan, etc. for helping us out. Many thanks, and have a great Friday. Have a great weekend because we're nearly there now.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye bye.